Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the Rambler Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Smith, Assistant Vice President of Development and Strategic Initiatives here at Cathedral Prep. On this podcast, we interview prominent Cathedral Prep and Villa Maria Academy alumni to highlight the success they have accomplished beyond their time at Prep or Villa, to provide us with some valuable leadership lessons and success stories they have learned in their careers. We also interview current faculty members or staff members at Cathedral Prep to let you know a little bit more about the people that are helping serve our students in the school today. Today on the podcast, we're very, very fortunate to have a special guest here, Kayla McBride. Kayla is a 2010 graduate of Villa Maria Academy and is currently a professional basketball player for the Minnesota Lynx of the WNBA and plays over in Turkey as well in the Turkish Super League. During her time at Villa, Kayla helped the Victors to a 106-15 record, including 2 state championships in 2009 and 2010. She was named the Pennsylvania Player of the Year in 2009 and 2010, as well as the Pennsylvania Gatorade Player of the Year in 2010 and McDonald's High School All-American in 2010. After Villa, Kayla went on to the University of Notre Dame, where she played shooting guard for the Irish under legendary coach Muffet McGraw. Kayla led Notre Dame to 4 consecutive Final Fours and 3 NCAA championship appearances. Her accolades are too numerous to list from her time in college, but include ACC Player of the Year, Sports Illustrated All-American Team, the Wooden All-American Team, AP All-American First Team, ESBWA All-American First Team, among many others. At the end of her time playing in Notre Dame, she ranked 5th in the program history with 1,876 points. She graduated in 2014 from Notre Dame's Mendoza College of Business with her bachelor's degree in marketing. She was then drafted 3rd overall in the 2014 WNBA Draft by the San Antonio Stars, where she then led her team in scoring her rookie year. She played for the Stars from 2014 to 2017, and then the Stars relocated to Las Vegas and were renamed the Las Vegas Aces, where she played from 2018 to 2020. And then in 2021, she joined the Minnesota Lynx, where she plays today. She was named to the WNBA All-Rookie Team in 2014 and has been named to the WNBA All-Star teams in 2015, 2018, and 2019. Kayla has been playing overseas through her career and currently plays professionally in the Turkish Super League, as I mentioned, where she is a 3-time champion there in 2017, 2021, and 2022. And she has many, many accolades outside of what I just listed as well for USA, competition with basketball and whatnot. And on a personal note, Kayla is the daughter of Luann and Lamont McBride and is the oldest of 4 kids. Her sister Carly is a 2013 graduate of Villa Maria Academy. Her brother Aaron is a 2018 graduate of Cathedral Prep. And her younger sister Jaden is currently a junior at Cathedral Prep. So Kayla, we're truly honored to have you on the podcast.
Wow, that was overwhelming. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in preparing for this podcast, one of the things I told you, I really, just love your story and appreciate all that you've been able to work for and accomplish. And, just want to highlight, to everyone the accomplishments you've had and, congratulate you on everything so far.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because when you like say everything out loud, you don't realize the steps that you've taken, not only for yourself, but, representing your family, representing where you come from.
Right.
And I think that's like the biggest testament to something that I've always carried with me, no matter where I am in the world.
Right.
Is that, I'm representing where I'm from, which is Erie and Villa and Prep. And, my siblings went here, my parents are from Erie. And just knowing that I'm carrying that with me all throughout my journey, it has been really special. So to kind of hear it all laid out like that, I'm just like, wow, man, this is kind of crazy. I'm thinking, oh yeah, well her youngest sister is still at
not to make you sound old or anything, right?
Not to make you sound old, but oh yeah, she does have a sibling still going here.
Yeah, and how cool for you to be able to mentor her, right, and guide her.
It's been a really cool process because obviously I've been away for a majority of it.
Yeah.
She's been through the diocese and she's done her thing. She's done AAU. But this is like one of the first times I've really been around her, consistently, which is, it makes me upset, obviously, not upset because I've been doing what I love and what I've dreamed about.
Right.
But, being able to spend this quality time with her, even small details like, hey, Kay, does this shirt match these shoes? Or something like that, just the girl things.
Yeah.
Has been really special for me, being able to have this time with her and just seeing how she's grown, and my parents have grown. My brother, Carly's getting married in the spring.
Wow, congratulations to her.
So just seeing all these changes while I was going through my own, my own life, my own journey, has been really special. So really, really happy where she's at, and hopefully junior year is the biggest year yet for her.
Right,
especially
exactly.
Here at prep, so
new changes, right, with the school year for her and everything, that you get to hear firsthand stories, as much as she'll tell you, right, apparently.
No, she'll tell me. She's not the biggest talker. You know, it's hard to get things out of her. She's very, like, content, but I was kind of like that, too, in high school. You know, she'll figure it out in her own way, but it's more so, it was fine, it was good, it was cool.
Right.
And then, you know, whatever it is.
The typical answers, right? Yeah.
Else, I mean, it's like pulling teeth, but it is what it is.
It's so funny. So you're talking about how nice it is to be back home, and of course this is where you grew up and where it all started. And you know, I know in reading your bio, it was actually at Burton where like you first were picking up a basketball and playing and really getting you know your skill set developed. Can you talk about those days early on and what you remember for how it helped develop your skills?
I remember so many stories. There's so many stories. Like, and obviously we have Erie High now, but a lot of the guys that I was playing with went to like East, Vincent, Central at that time, and they were football players, basketball players. I think about like Shaquan Pulliam. Obviously, he's a pro guy. You know, like people like that, like Rashawn Thrower, Sheldon Zablotny, like all these guys, like. We were just hooping. Yeah. Like at that time, it was like, you know, kids still went outside and played, like after school and stuff. And that was just kind of what I did.
Yeah.
So I grew up on the east side, 28th and Brandis, and we would just go up. Like I would finish my homework and I would just go up and I would hoop. It was something I just really loved to do. Take my bike, my brother, whoever was home at the time, you know, my sister sometimes can stay home with one of my siblings. I would take the other one with me.
Yep.
And I was just playing. And even to this day, I love basketball. I love the game. I love watching it. I love learning about it because it's changed so much.
Right.
And I just always been that way. I was so curious. Sometimes I would just watch.
Right.
Like the old heads, like Julian Blanks and all them. I would just watch them because I just was so curious about the game. And so just being up at Burton every day, it was just kind of like the hard part of it.
Right.
I was getting knocked on my butt.
I bet.
I was getting knocked around and elbowed, and nobody reached their hand out and picked me up.
Right.
I was the only girl out there.
Yeah.
But it gave me this toughness, and it gave me this appreciation for the details, and I had to pay attention to the details, and it was just something that I really tried to be better every single time. Like I wanted to be picked on the team. You know, every time I went, I wanted to get picked like earlier and earlier and earlier. And eventually it became like I was getting picked first.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I was earning these guys respect. And, you know, that gave me confidence to go back to Villa and, you know, perform in the AAU circuit and all that stuff. But that was where I really, really, truly embraced the love of the game.
Right.
You know, and, you know, my hope is eventually, like maybe in the next couple of years, is to be able to redo Burton, you know, and kind of like resurface it and do all the things to it because it is such a special place for me.
Yeah.
And it was a safe haven for me. It was a place where I could go and just, the game was as pure as could come.
Yeah.
So definitely very thankful for my time. I have stories on stories. People
I bet.
on people. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, I bet.
From like 3 p.m. to like 7:38, like almost every day after school.
That's so cool.
You know, so it was definitely like a first love type of thing, and I cherish, and will never forget some of my moments at Burton for sure.
And then your dad, he was always involved with like basketball camps, right? So he probably nudged you in that direction, of course, just having his own love of the game.
Yeah, so my dad, I mean, he was always like in the coaching realm of it. I remember Charlie Ward used to do a camp back here. That's the reason I wear 21.
Right.
He used to do a camp at Family First, but it was all boys.
Okay.
So they asked my dad to be one of the coaches, and it was during the summertime, so he would take me with him.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there dribbling on the side, just waiting for him to be like, hey, like join this drill.
Yeah, yeah.
And at this point, it's like seniors at East, seniors at, you know, Vincent, Central. They don't want this like 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid to come out here and play with them.
Yeah.
But they would, and they like kind of embraced me. And that was another point where I was just like, man, I really love this like team atmosphere.
Yeah.
I think that was another thing. I kind of got that from guys.
Right.
Like I got that from like the older guys at those types of camps and those type of environments because my dad would like allowed me to be in those types of places.
Right.
But yeah, no, that Charlie Ward camp in the summertime was probably like one of those moments where, because it was like all the Erie kids.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
A lot of the guys like, you know, that I grew up playing with, we started like in those camps.
Yeah.
You know, so that was kind of cool because it came full circle eventually.
Right.
But yeah, that was like where I really, you know, truly like, I was like, I can do this. Like,
yeah.
I really love this game. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm taking this serious. It was those types of moments. But my dad was a big part of that. He was always like the most confident in not only what I was doing, but what my siblings were doing.
That's cool.
Especially in sports. But, you know, he was very strict in the way that he approached it. He wanted us to make sure we had good grades and, you know, make sure we were doing the right things, being polite. And like all of those things kind of carried over in the team atmosphere and things like that. So along with my mom, They're
Of
like
course,
they're
yes.
like they're like it's like water and fire. You know what I'm saying? But like perfect. You know, it's like
both
it's
super
like
powerful in their own right.
Exactly, and they've like this perfect balance of like, you know, I could lose a game. I'm like, it'll be okay. And my dad's like, hey, we got to work on this.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but it's like this perfect balance.
Oh,
of like,
how cool.
Hey, it's gonna get better, but you need to get better.
Right.
And he did that for all of us in his own way. You know, because we're all very different.
Now, did you appreciate that as a kid, or is it kind of looking back now?
I did. I can't say all my siblings did, and
Sure.
it was very different. I'm very competitive, and you know that was just kind of like my personality.
Yeah.
It kind of it worked. It was cohesive.
Right.
It didn't always work for my sister. Wasn't as saying she didn't want to be talked to. Like
right.
that,
Right.
Not to say that she wasn't competitive and she didn't work hard. It was just different.
It was different. Right.
And then my brother and my dad, they're both guys, so it's like a whole different.
A whole new dynamic.
And then there's the baby of the family, and then we're trying to like nudge her along, like, all together, like it's like a group effort. At that point.
Right.
So I think I take a lot of responsibility in being the oldest.
Yeah.
And leading by example, and that's something I think I really truly instilled from my dad.
Yeah.
Because he was just like, hey, listen, like your brother and sisters, they're looking at you. You know,
Yeah.
they're watching you, and you got to remember. And like I took that to heart.
Right.
And I think that I took that to heart in the first way, competitively, and
right.
like how I played basketball and how I approached it and how hard I worked. And that the rest kind of followed through. So I was very appreciative for him in that and putting the ball in my hands.
Yeah.
But also being like, hey, like this is something that you can really do.
Right.
And he gave me that confidence.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's important.
And how cool for you to lean on him for that confidence, right? Mm-hmm. To be able to like say, my dad's saying this about me, and then you're in those camps and you're proving yourself,
yep.
and you're feeling that
sure.
development happen. So when was it that you then decided you were going to go to Villa, and why was it Villa that you chose out of wherever you wanted to go?
Yeah, so I started Lewis Memorial like way back when.
Yeah.
And then we decided to move diocese, and I went to St. John's.
Okay.
And Villa just kind of happened to be. It wasn't as, it was prominent. So, like, the Ashley Raybos, the Amy Oldax,
mm-hmm.
like, the Nicole DeRamos. I had known about all of them.
Yeah.
But I also knew about the Chelsea Gordons and, all the girls at Mercyhurst, too.
Right.
So, I was kind of torn. Like,
yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. I was torn.
I
remember,
sure.
like, coming up with, like, this. I had this, like, goal thing when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wanted to go to Mercyhurst, and I wanted to go to North Carolina, and I want to go to WNBA.
Wow.
The
last one.
Yeah. One out of three is bad.
One out of three, yeah.
Because it was obviously I'm from the east side, so I was around.
I was going to say, naturally, it's closer.
I remember being at the games, Aaron Kerner, and, I remember watching her dad was a ref, so I knew him.
Yeah.
My dad was a ref, too, growing up, so I was just around it more.
Right.
So that's what I knew until I met Chuzy and Double, at that time. And, I just appreciated, my parents and I both appreciated how they saw the game, and I think that we just kind of took that and ran with it. And it was probably one of the best decisions that I made.
Yeah.
Because they really, and even to this day, Chuzy develops, and he's really invested into the girls and all the girls who have come to the program.
Right.
And that kind of started, like, he kind of learned. I was kind of like his, Project A.
His first one.
Yeah. Because he just like, he said that to me all the time. He was just like, this is the first time I'm doing this, Kay. Like,
Yeah.
Like, I learned how to drive sometimes in Chuzy's car.
Oh, how cool, yeah.
Just the fact that he would leave the door open for me and let me shoot early,
right.
or late or whatever. And my parents had to work till 4:30, practice would end at 4.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? And he was just always that, like, calm, steady voice that I could listen to, the X's and O's. And I tell my parents this all the time. I said a lot of the X's and O's that I knew, even in college and all that stuff, came from Chuzy.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was very appreciative, obviously, Dibble as well, at that time, his leadership aspect and the way that he just kind of was. I don't know if I would have been able to be as prepared as I was if it wasn't for them, and how they just were like, hey, listen, this is who we need you to be. You know what I'm saying? We're going to give you the blueprint of what the work looks like. And, I had great teammates. Yeah, it was just, it kind of like was set up perfectly for me.
Yeah. Well, it's cool because you were the first one that Chuzy, got to work on. You were his first project, but now you look back on it years later. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but the amount of girls he's helped go play in college and develop and work on and be that same person to them that, hey, you got the practice on you, right? You got something, right?
Exactly. And, I've been really proud, like, from afar, because obviously, I'm all over the place.
Right.
But seeing how many girls he's been able to, like, bring their dreams to reality like he did mine. Because, when you come to Erie, you see Gannon, you see Mercyhurst, you see Barron, whatever.
Right.
You're not thinking about all these other places, at least at that time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because I had never seen, I had seen a couple girls from Mercyhurst. I had seen, 1 or 2, But like seeing it consistently now has been beautiful to watch. And obviously, watching my sister go through it as well right now, seeing my sister go through it, my younger sister go through it, it's been really cool. And I know Choosy works really, really hard behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So I'm very fortunate for that. But my time at St. John's as well, and just being in the diocese, I think in general, like the competition was cool.
Yeah.
I think about Kayla McBride at St. Luke's and Ashley Prishek OLP. Like we all end up playing together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And how cool,
Yeah, but like playing against each other since we were like 5th, 6th grade, and then being able to kind of bring it all to fruition. Coming into Villa was pretty cool, and then winning states. But it started with those older girls. You know what I'm saying? The Amy Odas, Ashley Rainbows, Coda Rainbow. Like I remember going through and like walking through the school.
Wow.
What is this, shadowing?
Yeah.
I remember shadowing and then being like
looking up to them.
Yeah, and being like, whoa, this is so cool. Like, and you know what I'm saying? And like, not even realizing how the magnitude of what it would become.
Right.
And still being cool with them to this day is like, it's so cool.
That's awesome.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and beyond that, were there any other special memories you've had from your time at Villa, whether it was athletics or outside of that, or just anything that...
I used to love sports day.
Oh, yeah?
We used to have this thing, like every class would have their like theme, and we would have this day dedicated to sports. So we would just play all these different sports, and they'd be like, the freshman this, the sophomore this, the junior this, the senior that.
Yep.
And that was like my favorite day. I used to love it. That was so cool because it was bringing tradition to like everybody, because everybody's obviously different. You know, when you're in high school, people don't even know who they are yet.
Right.
But being able to come together on that day and through sports, obviously, which is something that was important to me.
Yeah. And with Sports Day, they're actually, now that the schools have merged, they are going to continue on that tradition at Prep.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Yeah, and I sometimes I go back on Facebook and I see these pictures and we're like decked out. Like, oh man, it was so cool. Yep. It was we were like the Star Spangled Seniors or something. And, like I had like American flag like across my. It was so cool.
That's funny.
So just knowing that, but you remember those days,
right?
You know what I'm saying? The camaraderie. And I'm like, I hope Jaden like has those types of moments.
Oh,
I know
she
Carl
will.
did.
Yep.
My younger sister and Aaron. He always had prep life. I don't know as much about. I hear.
Oh yeah, we're different in our own right.
You guys have your guys' own traditions and like going to the games and stuff. But it's definitely cool to see that and just remember those types of moments. And that's awesome that they're bringing that back.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So your time at Villa came to an end, right? Very accomplished in what you were able to do, and then you get to go to a big program like Notre Dame under Coach McGraw, who was obviously very, very accomplished. I mean, at that point, she was named to the College Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame while you were a player. And then she was AP Coach of the Year a couple of years while you were there. So you're coming into a big program already. Was it a tough transition for you from Villa to Notre Dame, just stepping up now to the collegiate level and at that level at that?
Yeah, Notre Dame was a special, special time. People ask me, like, if you could go back anytime, it would be Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Because I love college, and I always tell my brother this, because, he's at Bear now. I'm like, this is the last time that you're going to be surrounded by people that are all doing the exact same thing you're doing. We're just all trying to, like, whether you're a freshman or senior, you're just trying to, like, figure it out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's why you really don't know yourself. But, like, everybody's literally doing the exact same thing in college.
Right.
And I was very, very fortunate. I had a great leader in Coach McGraw. I had great times. But it was a challenge, coming from a small city. Obviously, Notre Dame was only 8,000. It was only 8,000 undergrad at the time, 12,000 grads. It's not like a huge campus like my sister went to IU at 40,000. I can't imagine. Like, I would have got lost.
Yeah,
She's like taking buses here and then. I'm like, I could just walk across campus.
Yeah.
But the magnitude of what you're carrying is different. The reputation that you're carrying is different. And, the expectations are different.
Right.
So, I struggled. I was up and down my freshman year. And there was points where I wanted to give up. Like, I was just like, no, this is too hard. Like, oh gosh. But I'm thankful, very, very thankful for my parents. They were like, listen, Kay, like, we know that it's hard, but just kind of steered me in the right way. I just got to work.
Yeah.
Like, it was just about the work. That was academically, that was athletically. I made great friends, like great people. And I was able to really take in all of the great things. Like, I'm very, very fortunate for my time at Notre Dame. Because it wasn't always easy, but it was definitely worth it. And I always say this, I'm like, I know Notre Dame is really expensive, but I would have went there without playing basketball. That's how special the place it is,
Yeah.
And obviously learning from Coach McGraw, and then taking it to the pro level was even another transition.
Yeah.
But having that experience with her and knowing that as a woman too, it wasn't even necessarily as a basketball player, but just the things that she taught you as a woman, and walking into a room as a woman in power, woman in leadership, like that was very, very different. And so for me, I was very fortunate to learn from her, but then also learn from the people I was around.
Yeah.
I was around Skylar Diggins and Jewel Lloyd and Natalie Achonwa,
Right.
Devereaux Peters. Like, these are WNBA champions, WNBA All-Stars, you know? And so for me, having that blueprint laid out for you every day, I was very, very fortunate and very lucky because I don't know if I didn't, you know, it's kind of flipped because you go from being the one that's like trying to lead your siblings and things like that, teams like when you're in high school, to being the person that has to learn all over again.
Right.
So I was able to learn from really great people, which is
Right.
amazing, and I'm so very, very fortunate.
What were some of the biggest takeaways, if not a bunch, but maybe just one, like, biggest lesson that maybe you learned for yourself as a leader that maybe either you had to develop or you weren't strong in?
Man.
Or go ahead and list this.
Yeah, I'm about to say, how many bullet points do you need? You know, I think the biggest thing is be where you are, stand in who you are, and recognize who you are, you know, and find value in that, because, you know, the world is a crazy place and it keeps getting bigger as you get older.
Yeah.
So just remembering who you are and being able to stand in the ground that you are in, especially as a woman athlete, like a female athlete.
Yeah.
It can be hard, you know what I'm saying?
So how does someone do that? Let's say somebody's listening to this podcast, right? And they're like, okay, that sounds great, but how do I do that? How do I understand my value? How do I know where I'm at?
For sure. I mean, it's very hard, and it can be up and down because the world has changed too. So imagine, and when I got into college, we didn't have social media. I didn't get my Twitter challenge in 2012, which is like about to go to my junior year.
Right.
So like for me, these girls are coming in and it's different. Like everything's under a microscope.
Wow.
So for me, I think the biggest thing is finding consistency. So whatever that looks like, if it's consistently working out, if it's consistently praying, if it's consistently meditating, if it's consistently, and as I get older, it changes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But that's what I'm saying. So being able to stand where you are and be where you are and find those things that help you continue to move on that path where you're trying to go is the single hardest thing, the most valuable thing.
Right.
Because if you can really take a second and be, okay, this is where I am, this is what I need, and be okay with needing and wanting and being that.
Right.
And not necessarily drifting this way or drifting that way, or, you know, you see this and maybe it's not you, but you feel like you have to do it, or you see that. You know, like, it's way different now with the social media, and that's something I had to adjust to, too.
Right,
As I got older. But, you know, as a young female athlete, just being consistent in who you are, because you're always going to be pulled, and you're going to see people doing things that maybe don't align with with you or whatever. But being consistent in who you are, and the rest will fall into place. You know, you'll continue to learn about yourself. You continue to find the people that really love you and care about you. But when you find that consistency in yourself, the rest kind of falls into place.
Right. I think that's such a good answer, because I didn't know what you were going to say, but to say that, because I don't know, there's some old ancient saying that you are what you repeatedly do, and that's what you're saying, the consistency, your habits, right? The things that you do on a daily basis, in and day out, and you know, it's something that I'm always consistently, you know, striving for myself, right? In my own career. What goals do I have, and what habits do I need to have to help me get there?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you were talking about.
Right, and being self-aware, too. I think sometimes, you know, you can scroll and you can see 50,000 people doing 50,000 different things.
Right.
That doesn't mean any of them work for you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And like, what I always try to tell my siblings, and even tell myself, is that like, it's okay to be exactly who I am.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because I think that that's a testament to itself.
Right.
It's just being like, okay, I see 50,000 other people, and this person has this many, and this person has... It's not helping me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I know God made me exactly as I am.
Yeah.
And so to be able to walk in that is probably the best... It is the best thing that I can do, and the most powerful thing I can do.
Yeah. And I think also it ties in with, you know, if you do have something that you want to go for, it's okay to fail too, right? Like, it's okay to test those waters and step out in faith, right? Put your trust in God and go out there. How have you seen that in your life, where maybe you've had some failures or setbacks, but you learned from it and helped you progress? Yeah,
one of the hardest days of my life was losing the national championship my senior year. So we had went undefeated. I'm a senior. We had just lost Skylar the year before. Me, Natalie Achonwa, and Ariel Breaker were very, very close. We're all in the same class.
Right.
And Natalie went down with an ACL in the Elite Eight. And, you know, so for us, we have even this more amount of egotistical pride where we want to be able to back her up, because we know what she means to our program, what she means to us, to my sister.
Right.
And at the time, you know, we had just beat Maryland by like 30. In the Final Four. And I'm like, okay, we got this. And now we see UConn. It's like the Brianna Stewart Morgan Tuck, Steph Dolson, Bria Hartley, all like future WNBA players, same team. Okay, so at that point, like, you know, we come out with our chest pumped high and we're ready. And we lose. And I've never been so down and out, like down and just like, man, I gave everything I had.
Right.
But what I learned from it, and it took me a while. What I learned from it is that to really all you have is to give everything you have, and to really stand in the work and the preparation. And that comes with anything. I don't think it's necessarily just for sports. I've learned a lot through sports. I've learned that through sports to carry into my normal adulthood.
Right.
But giving the best you have and preparing the best you can is really all you can do. The rest of it is not up to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And how you approach things and how you approach people around you. And all those things are in your control.
Right.
But then there's like this point where it stops being in your control. And that was like my first taste of that.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, when you're younger or whatever, you're like, okay, what I got next year? All right, what I got next year?
Right.
When it's your senior year, you don't have next year.
There's no going back.
And that was like that moment when I was like, this is really over. Like, I'm really done wearing Irish across my chest. And I didn't hit my end goal, which was national championship. And that was like one of the first times I was like, man, like, I had to recalibrate. Yeah. And figure out what's next, what's the next goal. And then it's WNBA, and then you find all these other goals, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
In your adulthood and stuff like that. But, you know, I think it's just about recalibrating, understanding, you know, there's some things that are out of your control. Yeah. But the things that you are in control of, if you give everything and 110% to those things, you'll always be okay with the outcome. Right. You know, win, lose, or draw. Like, you'll find a way to be the most, even those competitive human beings on the planet. Yeah. Will always find a way to be okay with the outcome, knowing that they gave everything they had. Right. And, you know, being at Notre Dame and what it meant to me. Yeah. Not only as a basketball player, but just as a person. Right. It's way deeper than just one game. You know what I'm saying? But at that moment, all it felt was like one game. One game, yep. Right. So, like, figuring out, like, and being able to recalibrate and come back and be like, man, all these memories, all these things that shaped me and changed me into the woman that I'm really trying to become. Yeah, true. They don't come down to just one game or one moment or one 40-minute thing, you know? And I'm just, you know, at first I'm like, I hate this. Yeah. You know? It probably took a while to get over it. Oh, yeah, but then you go back to it and you realize, man, I feel like, you know, I made this program better. Or we left this program better than where we, you know, when we got here. Yes. And that's like the biggest thing, which comes from the work and the preparation and the choices, the sacrifices. And that's what matters. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I didn't realize that till later on. I'm like ready to kick the chair and, you know, whatever. But, you know, you live and you learn. Right. And, you know, that's the biggest thing is if learning from failures. Right. You don't want to keep making the same mistakes. And I felt like I learned a lot from that moment. A lot personally, right? Because it's all in the journey. And, you know, like you said, it's not the culmination. It's not the 40 minutes in that exact moment. It's everything that led up to that. Right. And then beyond it, everything they experienced and learned and took from it. I've always heard that, you know, you work like it's up to you, but you pray like it's up to God, right? You just do what you can day in and day out. And the things that you were talking about, the uncontrollables, you just put that in God's hands and just let Him deal with that. And you hope things align. So unfortunately, you lose the national championship. Now, when was the WNBA Draft after that? So I think usually the Final Four and all that stuff is the first week of April. Yeah. I went home for probably like a week. And then I was back and I was at the draft because I went up to Connecticut and got ready for all that stuff. Right. And I got drafted and I was literally out like the next morning. I was back in San Antonio and I did like all the promo stuff and all that stuff, which is really cool. But how fast of a turnaround, right? You go from... It was like a week, like 7 days. And all of a sudden you go from being like a college student to being a pro. Right. You know what I'm saying? And now it's like, it's not even about other things. It's about money and... And, you know, you grow up real fast, right? You got to think of different things. I'm 21, so I was young for my class. I started college when I was 17. Okay. So I'm 21. Yeah. I can barely get in the bar. Right. You know, I barely control my ID, and then it's like, all right, you got it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Let's figure all this out. And it was a whirlwind. It really was. And obviously, I went to a smaller market, which I'm really thankful for, because I don't know if I would have been able to. God knew. He's like, look, this is the team right here. We're not sending you to LA or like New York City. We're gonna send you to San Antonio. Yeah. It was small market, but the market was so cool. Like, and I was so thankful for my time in San Antonio because the people, they really established who I was. Not only where I was, like coming from, you know, college atmosphere. I was a small town kid at heart.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
I'm from Erie, and like through and through, like whether it was South Bend or Erie,
Right.
being able to kind of carry that in San Antonio, they kind of embraced that part
Right.
of me, and I was really, really thankful for that, especially as a pro, because it's not always like that. It doesn't always happen that way.
Right.
So yeah, I had to grow up quick.
So what did you learn in those years as you were, because, you know, I'm imagining, again, some people listening to the podcast are probably in a transition point in their life. They might be getting ready to go beyond college, or they might be in their careers even young, starting out. What did you learn as a young professional that you had to start doing to advance yourself and your career? Even at that magnitude in WNBA, you still had things you had to do, like you were just talking about.
Yeah, so, I mean, if I think about my first 4 years in the WNBA, I think the biggest thing, I'll start with this and I'll dive deeper, is that it's not always as big as it seems. It's not always as small as it seems. And it's about finding your balance. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, you want to jump in, you want to do everything, you want to do this, you want to do that.
Yeah.
But there's also this balance of, like who you're actually trying to become, and, like, all the things that are in front of you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, being able to kind of recalibrate and understand that, okay, I'm in a new city, I want to try everything, I want to go to every food place, I want to go hang out, I want to do this, I want to do that. But then also realizing that you're a professional athlete now. And then so whether you're a professional now, and whether that's a job or whether it's an athlete, whatever, and finding that balance and understanding that you still have goals in mind.
Right.
So my goals were very prevalent in my first 4 years. And I was in a small city, I guess, smaller.
Sure.
Which was good, but also had big goals. And, you know, I went overseas my first year, went to Hungary, I got hurt, ended up having to come back home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So life has a way of, like, grounding you.
Right.
And I was grounded, like, immediately.
Yeah.
I had a great rookie year. I led our team in scoring. I played with one of the best to ever do it, Becky Hammond. She was my vet.
Wow.
Who now coaches the Aces.
How cool.
Sophia Young-Malcolm, Jane Appel, Dan Hughes, one of the best coaches in WNBA. He's the one who drafted me. Vicki Johnson is the coach of Dallas Wings. James Wade, he was my assistant coach. He coaches the Chicago Sky, who just won the championship last year.
Yeah.
So I had this great group of people
Right.
around me, like, kind of steering me in the right direction.
Yeah.
And so I had this young kid, you know what I'm saying, that had all these ambitions, and I had these people that were kind of guiding me.
Right.
And I was very, very fortunate, because not many people talk about San Antonio as a place, like, where people go to thrive.
Yeah.
Especially in that time, we weren't
Sure.
that good. And that was another thing I had to get used to. It's like losing.
Right.
We lost.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, wow, this sucks.
You come from Villa, you come from Notre Dame.
I won everyone. High school, I won. You know what I'm saying? We're going to
Got
Final
Burton on the
Fours.
court,
Yeah,
right?
we're going to Final Fours. And now we're not even making the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that's humbling too.
Yeah.
So, it is a transition. But I think if we're going to put in the retrospective of anybody being a professional and going into this new world, is that you're going to take bumps and bruises. You know what I'm saying? But it's about how you get up.
Right.
And it's about, like, you know, standing on your morals, standing on your values, standing on things that you really know about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned about myself in college. Like, okay, I knew what worked for me in college. And it might look a little different, you know, as I get into adulthood and professionalism.
Yep.
But they're still the same values. They're just changed a little. They're altered a little bit to who I am now.
Right.
And it continues to be the same way. Like, even now, I'm about to enter my 30s. Well, I'm 30. Like, my 30, whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the same base. It's just altered based on my experiences. And I think that that's what professionalism has taught me, is that I don't change. My experiences change. You know? And I think that's the beauty of it, is that, like, you can look back and be like, man, that was a stupid mistake, or that was something I would never do now.
Right.
But that's because I would never do it now, because I've
Right.
learned from my mistakes.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think the other thing that's so key is that you do have the goals to kind of set you in the direction where you want to go. So when you do have those moments that you're set back, you seem like such a positive, optimistic person and rooted in your faith that you never take those moments to boo-hoo and cry and go sit in a corner.
Sure.
You're like, all right, I learned from this. I'm going to grow from this, and I'm going to get this, my goal, if it's going to be the death of me, you know, like just keep moving forward.
Absolutely. And, you know, the goals change too.
Yeah.
Right? As you get older, the goals change.
Right.
You know, there's money involved now, and there's houses, and there's cars, and there's loans, and there's this, and that stuff didn't exist when I was in high school. My parents worried about it, and, you know, even in college.
Right.
Those aren't.
You're just playing ball.
Right. I'm just hooping. I'm doing what I know.
Right.
And so, you know, you learn about yourself as you go through these rough patches of, like, figuring out, you know, the things that really matter to you, figuring out your goals, and maneuvering through. And I mean, it's a process, but that's the beauty of it. The journey is the beauty of it. And it's not necessarily meant to be easy.
Right.
And I don't think God ever meant it to be easy, but it's always worth it. And there's always this beautiful light at the end of the tunnel if you really, really are undistracted in your purpose. And I think that's something that and I'm still diving into.
Right.
Because I think our purposes change. You know what I'm saying? I think that we have a purpose, and then, you know, we find other purposes that become bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? You're a dad now.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Your purpose is not the same as when you were in high school or when you were in college. And it's different. Your purpose is different. Be a dad and, you know, whatever that is, be a husband, all these things. And that's the same for everybody else. So being able to dive into your purpose and be where you are and stand where you are is the most beautiful thing and the most peaceful thing. And I think when you can find those moments, because it's not always going to make that.
Right.
It's chaotic.
Right.
But I think when you can find peace and happiness in those moments of being where you are,
it
doesn't matter where you are. You'll always be able to like see something clearly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And see where you're going clearly and see your goals clearly. And that's something that I've really, really been able to, you know, expand on as a young woman and growing into, you know, an adult and a grown woman with bills and mortgages and things like that, is that the goal remains the same, is to be where I am and find purpose in where I am.
So how do you find that purpose? So, you know, if somebody's going through, you know, life and, you know, like you point out to me, I'm a dad, right? That's an easy purpose to find, and it's every single day. It's all you're thinking about. Same with you, right? You're in WNBA right now. You're doing great. You have your purpose. What would you say for somebody who maybe is like literally just doesn't have purpose in their life right now? I know it's a deep question, so take it as you want. But
I mean, I always find it in prayer. That's my biggest thing. And my faith has always been like a compass for me. Yeah. It's always been somewhere I can go to find the peace and find the...
Was God always prevalent in your life?
Always.
Yeah.
You know, we went to church a lot growing up, fell off, but I always went to Catholic school, so it was always something that I was like around. Yeah. My grandmother is like, she's a prayer warrior, we said. Yeah. My mom's mom. And you know, there's moments where you steer off path, there's moments where you find out, there's moments where you feel...
natural progressions of life, right?
There's natural progressions. But my biggest thing is that even if I'm not searching, he's always willing. You know what I'm saying? That's so really sometimes I get distracted by other things that may be coming up in my life, or, you know, it's just there's a lot of chaos going on. So even if I'm not searching or, like, you know, reaching out, he's always willing. As soon as I turn around, like, he's just always there, ready to listen. And I think that's always something I was able to hang my hat on, is that, like, whenever I get lost or, like, distracted, even right now, I'm reading Undistracted by Bob Goff. Okay. And it's great. It's unbelievable because it's about redirecting and rediscovering your purpose and your joy. And it doesn't mean that I don't have purpose or I don't have joy. It just means it's giving me more of a direction of where I'm trying to go with based on where my goals are now. Yeah. And I think that if I'm talking to a young person or, you know, 21-year-old, right, just got out of school. I'm saying, okay, look, find out what your purpose, like, find out what makes you happy, first of all. Pray about it and be like, okay, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Yeah. And dive into it, you know, because there might be some failures. There might be some good days and bad days. Right. Even if there's good days and bad days, doesn't mean it's the wrong purpose. Right. It just means there's good days and bad days. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I think just being able to kind of take the bumps and bruises along with the journey is part of the journey. Yeah. And sometimes we get so caught up in the end goal or what's happening, where we're trying to go, that we forget that the most beautiful part is the journey. Yeah. And so what I've been able to find is that being still... whether it's meditating, whether it's prayer, whether it's yoga, whether it's working out, whether it's hanging out with my family in complete silence, not doing anything, that's where I find peace. And that's where I realize, okay, I'm able to kind of redirect myself and know exactly where I am and figure out exactly where I'm trying to go. Right. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be a straight line. Yeah. It just means I know what my end goal is, and I have to be able to appreciate the journey. Right. You know, because everybody has their own journey. You, me, the person walking across the street, driving their car across the street right now. Yep. Their journey is completely different than yours and I. Yep. So for me, it's not about comparing it to that. It's about comparing it to me. It's always going to be me versus me, and me and God. And me and my family. And, you know, me and, you know, like... Yep. And we get so
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Other things that, like, we forget that it's really just being where you are and standing where you are and being like, okay, and being honest. Yeah. And being self-aware. And being like, look, this is where I'm at and this is where I'm trying to go. I know it's not going to be easy, but it's worth it. Yeah. And if this is what God's purpose is for me, I'm going to dive into 100% because I know it's worth it. Right. Like, why would he give this beautiful purpose to me if it wasn't? Yes. You know? Yep. And so I mean, I could go on and on and on. And I will sit here and talk to you for 2 hours because I've done it and I've been questioning myself. I've been in the middle of Russia and being like, why am I here? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm sure.
Like, overseas is a grind.
I'm sure it's a tough thing, being away from home, family, everything you know.
Yeah. It's a culture shock. And I've met amazing people. I've seen amazing places.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like home.
Yeah.
But, you learn a lot about yourself in the darkest times. And I think sometimes we shy away from them, not knowing what's on the other side of it.
Right. And you penned a really good, we were talking about before we started, the Players Tribune, the article where you talked about during that time in, the pandemic and just your mental health and what you had to learn during that time. I would encourage anybody listening, go check out that article. So Kayla doesn't have to rehash the whole thing now, but maybe pause this, read that article, and then come back and listen to this, because Kayla really opened up and kind of shared things that she went through that you've learned, right? Like you talked about things that you went through and experienced. What's some of the biggest things or advice you'd give somebody in the mental health arena right now about, keeping on top of your mental health or, making it a priority, things that you learned personally through your own battles?
Yeah, first of all, I think that it's so great that we're able to even have these conversations. Because I talked to my mom about this stuff, and she's like, hey, this was not even a conversation, for us growing up.
Right.
Or it was just looked down upon maybe. And I think that, mental health is such a elaborate thing that sometimes we try to confine it into these little groups or these little moments or whatever.
Yeah.
And so anybody who's listening or who is unsure of what their next move is, and I said this in my article, is that it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
Not everybody, even people people may seem happy or like they have it all together, and they could be, they could be going through a lot of things inside.
Right.
And I think that it's okay to talk about what we're feeling. It's okay to be vulnerable in those spaces. And it doesn't matter if you're small, old, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Adult, kids. I think that we all have feelings, and all of our feelings are valid. So if I'm talking to anybody who needs to hear it, is just that, like, your story and your feelings, they are deserving of being heard.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's not easy diving into all the reasons that you maybe feel this way or think this way or act this way, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy process, just like anything else. But it's so worth it. And mental health has continued to be something that's really, really prominent for me, not only as a woman but as an athlete. All the things that go on with athletes, and the successes and the failures and the ups and the downs and the being under a microscope, whatever.
Yeah.
It's always going to be that way. You know what I'm saying? So being able to, like I said, find your own peace and find your own balance are so key. But as a woman, all the things that you've gone through, whether you're a young adult, young woman, college, all of those things, like there's so many things that happen and you grow from and blah, blah, blah. But don't be afraid to grow from things. I think some of the biggest things that I've grown from were my darkest times. And we always say, like, the comfort zone is a beautiful place to be, but nothing grows there. Anybody can stay in their own comfort zone. Anybody can do that. Anybody, you know what I'm saying? But nothing grows there. Right. And I think that that's the whole thing with mental health, is that we're trying to be better. Right. We're trying to be, we're trying to break free of it. Yeah. We're not trying to stay in it. And just be like, oh, well, I'll just do this or I'll just do that. Like, no, we want to be better than the things that have happened to us, or the things that, other people have caused us, or whatever. Right. The feelings, the emotions. We want to be better than those things. And I think that, the article was something that, like, look, I've been through a lot of things, but I am not those things. They don't define me. Right. I define me. And it's like what we talked about, being where I am and being in my own space and understanding, like, I'm okay exactly as I am. And realizing that I'm only okay exactly where I am because I wasn't okay. Yeah. Where I was. So being vulnerable with yourself and self-aware is the biggest thing. And like I said, that goes from 12-year-olds to 50-year-olds. I've talked to all of them. And it's always the same, so... and
how cool the impact you've been able to make by putting yourself out there with that article, the transparency.
Yeah, that was the most beautiful part about it, which she talked about. Yeah. Like I said, from 15 to 50. Right. People just being like, I'm going to start having those conversations. Yeah. I'll be able to talk about them because that's the healing. And that's what you want, you want to create better people and better experiences and better journeys and, just bring light to other people. And I think that was... really at the bottom of it, like, at the girth of it, that's really what I really wanted that article to be about. Is like, look, I know it's not easy, and I know some days they suck, and you don't know what's going on, you don't know what the next day's going to look like, but if you're able to, really have those conversations and talk about it and be self-aware, there's a beautiful thing on the other side of it. It's not always, good, it's not always sticky in between there. Yep. But the end of it, is really cool. So I'm really fortunate, and even in my own family experiences, the leaps and bounds that we've taken as a family have been amazing and immense. So I've been really fortunate for that and just being able to help other people is always a blessing.
Well, and people just, being understanding that, hey, you're Kayla McBride and all the accolades I just write in the bio, but to be able to say you're just as vulnerable as anybody else, and you needed to have those conversations just like anybody else needs to have, and it's okay, as you said, to not be okay, right? But the one thing you said in there, but you have to be the one that puts yourself back together, right? And those were the things you talked about, being self-aware, developing those habits to create consistency, knowing who you are, and all those things. And I think also one of the themes that have been through as you were talking, the people in your life who have been there for you, coming from Choosey and Dibble at Villa, to your coaches at Notre Dame, to the WNBA. You've had great, and your parents too, great role models and mentors along the way that have really helped you stay clear to where you want to go as a support system.
Oh, man.
So,
my support system is one of one.
Yeah.
And I always say that, like, I tell my mom this all the time. I said, Mom, honestly, if I shot in the other team's basket, you'd probably still cheer for me. Because that's how unconditional it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could come down and just smack it off the backboard, just, like, throw it into the stand. And she'd be like, she'd just start clapping for me because that's how unconditional her love is for me. And that's, like, such a beautiful thing, and it takes a lot of the pressure off for me because I know I can always go to them for the security and safety and exactly who I am.
Right.
Whether it's 10 points or 30 points.
Yeah.
It's the same. My mom always tells the story. She's like, man, okay, I had one of the best games ever. She used to play Gerard that way.
Yeah,
she's an old lady now. Don't tell her I said that. Well, it's on podcast. She's like, yeah, the one game I had 32 points. She's like, the next game I had 2. And she would always tell me that story when I was growing up. Yeah. And I don't know why I always remembered it, but I think it was just because, like, she was just trying to get around to the point where, like, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? And it's not that she doesn't care. She wants me to do well. Right. She's very prideful, along with my dad. But they're so, like, proud of who I am as a person. Right. And that hits way different than any accolade, any, diploma, any All-Star ballot, any of that stuff. And I've been very fortunate to be able to stand on that ground as I maneuver through my professional career, for sure. And
as we start to wind down in this podcast, in terms of leadership, how important of a role do you think that is? So, you're talking about your parents encouraging you. How would you say as a leader of your team, you've applied that to be able to, lead your team in the same sense you could lead your place of business and do things like that based on those lessons? How would you say that you could apply that same principle?
It's allowed me to not treat everybody the same because everybody has different, experiences, different upbringings, different, temperaments, different, all that, attitudes, all that stuff. And so for me, my parents, watching them maneuver through 4 different kids, very different. Like, we're very similar, but we're very different. Yeah. And they're different. There's 2 different people that came together and raised 4 different people. Right. Unconditionally. It wasn't always perfect, but unconditionally, for sure. Yeah. And so as I move into the leadership aspects, as I'm getting older, I'm a vet now.
You're
weird.
You're an old head yourself, right?
I'm an old lady now. In WNBA world, I'm like old. Like, I'm like the 4th oldest on my team. I'm like, whoa.
You're like, wow, that happens quick.
I was like, whoa. I'm about to go.
We won't talk about that anymore. We won't talk about that.
Years in the WNBA is crazy. But being able to talk to certain people a certain way, like understanding, some people, relate or like react to different things in a different way, and as a leader understanding that and being aware of that because that's going to bring the best out of them. You know what I'm saying? And also having younger siblings, I know that I can't talk to Carl the same way I talk to Aaron, and that's just me being aware and understanding, and that's really, I've been able to carry that in because my parents didn't talk to me the same way they talked to Jaden. We're not the same. And they were always very aware of that, but they still loved us the same. And I think that's so important. You know what I'm saying? It was never one or the other. It was just like, listen, like, we're a family and we'll do this. And that's how it is with teams, When you're on a team, you want to be a family. The best teams are like family. They're like sisters or like brothers. And the championship teams, that's what it is. And it's like you're able to tell people the hard truth and know that they love you anyway. What
creates that culture, do you think? Is it what you're talking about? Like,
but awareness. I think it's awareness too. And it's being aware that maybe the way I respond to things isn't the way that she responds to things, which is not the way that coach is going to say things. And being able to be like, coach might say something to her and she took it a different way than coach was trying to do. But like, I can be that barrier. I can be that, not even that barrier, but that buffer. Of being like, okay, I know that she said maybe that hurt her, or maybe she took it the wrong way. But being able to, hey sis, like, I know that you felt this way, but listen, like, she just wants the best for you, and blah, blah, blah. And being able to be like that, because I know what she wants, and I know her, and like, our coach's end goal is a championship, and that's my end goal, and I know it's her end goal. So being able to be on the same page and be cohesive in that maybe comes with a different, different roadmap, but it's the same goal.
Right.
And so being able to do that as a leader, being an older sister and being a daughter and being a friend has really, really, really enabled me to become a better leader, especially, and a better basketball player, a better teammate.
Yeah.
Because you're willing and able. Because, every year there's new kids coming in.
Right.
These kids are 21. I'm not 21.
Yeah.
So being able to relate to them and being able to hear and understand them,
right.
It comes with a certain level of maturity, but also understanding and love and respect. And I think that when you have that as the basis of it, which I've been really, really fortunate with my support system, the rest kind of falls into place. So I've been really fortunate. I've been on great teams.
Yeah.
But the best teams that I've been on were sisters. I could call any one of them right now, and it's like sisters.
Right.
And that's what you want to create everywhere you go.
Right.
Because once you feel it one time, that's all you want. It's all you know. So, and that starts at home. It started at home for me.
Right.
And so for me, it's just kind of carrying that role model, that big sister.
Yep.
But sometimes little sister, sometimes daughter, sometimes that needs to learn. That needs to be able to be like, hey, Kay, you gotta be gay, you gotta be this.
Right.
But being able to take both of them and realize that they're both love.
Right.
Is the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's so cool, the lesson too, being able to learn and the magnitude of success you've had. And I have no doubt, whatever business aspirations you go on to do after your playing career, like you were talking about to me earlier, I have no doubt you'll be successful. Because you'll take that same blueprint you've learned from these great people and apply it to your own place of business and duplicate it just in that world.
I can't wait.
That's awesome.
Restaurant business coming soon.
Absolutely. We're all going to be checking it out.
All right. It'll probably be in area, so might as well.
You heard it here first, folks.
Here first, guys.
Yeah, line it up. All right, last question for you, and then we'll get you out of here so you can pick up your sister, right? She'll be out of school here in a minute. Yep. So, the last question. If you could go back in time to your graduation at Villa, all right, knowing what you know now. So, we've talked a lot about some advice and things so if there's anything outside of this, right? But what advice would you give to the people you graduated with, knowing what you know now, if you're going back to speak at your commencement?
Oh, wow. If I was going back to speak at my commencement, that's 2010. And I knew what I knew now.
Yeah.
I
know, it makes you think for a minute.
Say, and I feel like, as I move into my 30s, it's like your 20s are so weird and difficult and scary, and you just don't know anything. Yeah. You don't know anything. Right. You think you do, but you really don't.
You find out real quick.
Is that it's okay. It's such a hard question because everybody was in a different space at that time, right? Including myself. Yeah. It's okay to fail. Because, like I said, the best things that have happened to me have come after I failed or after I felt at my lowest. Right. The most beautiful things came after that. Or the hardest times, the most beautiful things came after that. And I think sometimes you have this, outline for your life. You're like, okay, I want to be married by 25 and I want to have kids by this and I want to do this and this. And it may not always look like that. So it's okay to not meet those goals. But it's not okay to give up on yourself. It's not okay to not keep moving forward. Right. So if I would say anything, it's okay to fail, but it's not okay to lose any confidence. It's not okay to to question yourself. It's not okay to question God. I mean, all that stuff. Right. Just remember who you are and remember that it's okay to fail.
That's so good. Yeah. We could talk for hours on this stuff. I love it.
I can really do it all day. But when you're 18, it's just nobody's... Yeah. Everybody's like, oh, you'll figure it out. Yeah. But it's just remember that it's okay to fail. Right. Remember that it's okay to be exactly who you are, where you are. Right. Just a message of encouragement. Go for it. Just go. Mic drop. You're off. To Notre Dame you go. Yeah. All right, guys. See you later. I'll see you in a couple years. So funny. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time today, Kayla. I mean, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I was excited leading up to it just because I knew... you don't get to the level of success you've had without a lot of these lessons you've talked about that you've learned. So I was really excited to have you on as a guest, be able to share that with people, because I know this episode is going to help a lot of people. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. It was cool to be here, and obviously coming back to a place, that means a lot to me and a lot to the city. And to be able to talk about these types of things, it really hits home. So I appreciate you having me. Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all. You always have a home here, and we look forward to your future and what you're going to be doing as the years go on. So thank you again. Thank you, I appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Rambler Podcast featuring Villa Maria Academy graduate Kayla McBride. And wow, what a great episode that she was able to come on and share her perspectives based on all of her
experiences in her professional career, all the accomplishments and success she's had, and we're just very, very fortunate to be able to have had her on as a guest of the podcast, and we wish her nothing but the best in her future endeavors, and I'm sure we'll be hearing again from her real soon. But I just want to give a quick promo for episode 7 of the Rambler Podcast, which will be coming out on October 17th, and that's going to feature Tim Doherty, who is the Vice President of Enrollment Management here at Cathedral Prep and is on our senior administrative team. Tim is a 1998 graduate of Cathedral Prep as well, so we're going to talk to Tim. I'm sure we'll touch on his time at Prep, but really dive into his role in our school and how he helps our families transition from their grade schools or middle schools into coming to Cathedral Prep and everything that's involved in what he does. So we'll talk more about that and who he is and give you a chance to get to meet Tim. So thanks so much again for listening to this episode of the podcast. God bless and roll Ramblers.